The work at Esri is done by teams who care really deeply about the problems that they're trying to solve for our users and the world. It's really that passion and that focus that leads to these amazing capabilities that emerge in the technologies that we create.
I'm John Nelson. I'm coming to you from a woodshed in my backyard in Michigan.
Esri Customer Service, Roxanne speaking. How may I help you?
So I'm originally from Kenya, and I'm very proud of that.
I was born and raised in Dubai.
Kingstree, South Carolina.
I'm born in the center of Germany.
I'm Nana, and I'm from Ghana.
My wife, Sarah, also works at Esri, so we met here.
I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. I haven't made it to Antarctica.
I go back to my earliest childhood. My father had rows and rows and rows of National Geographic magazine. I think it was sort of baked in, this love of geography.
I'm a very curious person in nature. Once I found out about GIS and it intrigued me, I was like, I'll keep going for this.
When I went and saw this movie, War Games, this is a movie back in the day, there were just incredible maps on computers, and I was fascinated. I went and grabbed this Apple II, and the next thing you know, I'd written a program to draw this map of the world, and I was hooked.
After my first GIS class in my undergrad days, I noticed that there were lots of problems around that could be solved by GIS.
And I sat there and I pushed a button to make a dot density map. And all of a sudden these dots started sprinkling in and data started revealing itself. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's like this model of the world coming to life right before my eyes. And I thought, this is magical.
I think GIS resonates with people because it is the marriage of science and technology with art.
It's very concrete and tangible. People get to really understand things when they see it depicted in the context of the world in which they themselves live in.
Getting a glimpse or a lens into what's going on in our society that maybe we can't see in any other way.
How do you visualize something as ephemeral as millions of little species migrating over the surface of the entire Earth? How do you keep track of all that? How do you represent that?
Right now, we are working on turning entire cities, entire countries, and image data sets into 3D models.
As a technical lead, you have to know everything about the customer, about the need, about the data, all of these pieces building on each other to make good decisions.
Everybody has that end goal of getting the customer what they need, getting that customer success, and we all work together to make that happen.
Our customers all over the world are engaged in some of the biggest problems and challenges of our time.
We're just trying to provide the tools for the smart folks to be able to do that really good work.
It's so easy to feel so small in such a big world. And so when you can contribute to something like GIS and the GIS community and the collaboration that happens there, makes you feel a little less insignificant, makes you feel like you're part of something bigger.
GIS means preserving the world as we have it. It's thinking about my kids and my grandkids and future generations.
The generation that's coming up now, I think is going to take GIS to a whole different level than we even can imagine.
And really the ability to integrate the environmental factors with the social factors.
And now you get to actually look and go, oh, it's more than just about income. It's about social justice. It's about equity. It's also about environmental justice. This collaboration is absolutely incredible because it's helping solve questions that people didn't think to ask before.
In what other industry do you have where something is rooted so intrinsically in something bound up within us? The concept of where.
The payoff is that you are impacting people's lives, and I can't think of anything more important.
So if we all can get to commit to working and solving a problem, we can all put our heads together to find a solution. Yeah. And that's my heartfelt one.
Welcome back to part 2. We just heard from some of Esri's staff who are responsible for creating and delivering the ArcGIS software that you use. And you may recognize some of the names and some of the faces. They were telling their own stories, their own passions, and their own backgrounds. And those backgrounds are, like us, very varied and representative of the whole GIS global community. We're now going to continue to look at some of the latest developments in the ArcGIS system, starting with the premier GIS tool for geospatial professionals. ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is Esri's professional desktop GIS application, and with ArcGIS Pro you can explore, you can visualize, analyze data, create 2D maps and 3D scenes, and you can share your work to ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. The development team for Pro continue to add new capabilities and enhancements with every regular release. Not only to ArcGIS Pro itself, but also to the set of focused extensions which are designed to enhance and extend the capabilities for specific data or for workflows. To look at the latest enhancements in ArcGIS Pro, and I want to pass over to Jess Houston and Josh Franklin.
Thanks for that, Scott. With this recent significant release for ArcGIS Pro, we'll explore some of the newest and improved capabilities that have arrived this last year by following a possible workflow with a hydrology perspective in New Zealand. We'll start off by simply opening up our project in ArcGIS Pro. We can see right away that with the latest 3.0 update, the homepage has changed to include access to learning resources on the left, with our recent projects front and center. With new abilities to search and to pin projects to the top. By right-clicking any project, I can also directly find myself to the File Explorer. If we open up our project to get started, let's say that the vast amount of data I want to work with is stored elsewhere in a cloud data warehouse. We can directly connect to cloud data warehouses now by going to our catalog pane, right-clicking databases and selecting new database connection, choosing from warehouses like Snowflake, Amazon Redshift, or Google BigQuery. In this case, though, I'm just going to connect to my data in Snowflake. Once it connects to Snowflake, my flood score address points provided by CoreLogic are available in the catalog pane. I could bring in the entire 2 million point record for the nation, but the area of interest is only on the west side of South Island for this project. So instead, I'm going to go to Add Data, Query Layer, connect to my Snowflake database, and construct a SQL query to find only the data set that I want from the West Coast districts. ArcGIS Pro will validate, then it's going to recognize the spatial properties of the data set, and it'll begin loading the data onto the map as it pulls up only the necessary data. Now we're going to see the CoreLogic properties being pulled up. So now that it's in, my data's in Pro, we can actually do some initial large-scale data exploration. To get a clearer picture of property flood risk in the West Coast, I'll select another copy of this data that I prepared earlier that now shows the scores symbolized by risk, and I'll go to our Feature Layer tab. I'll select Aggregation, and then Clustering. And now my points will dynamically adjust as I zoom in and out. If I return to the Clustering tab, I also have an option to add a summary statistic of the mean flood score, and I can symbolize the clusters now to show bright red for the highest flood score. Or I could still use feature clustering, but I could also use ArcGIS Pro's new animated styles, available in both 2D and 3D, from the symbol gallery to show a pulsing warning sign for properties closest to the flood zones, similarly colored by increasing flood risk. From this initial look, I can see that there's a cluster of higher flood scores in the Westport, so we'll take a further look there. Since I've narrowed down my data set to Westport, I want to understand more about this flood score data and see if I need to do any data prep. So I'll utilize data engineering tools. By dragging and dropping, I can select fields like the flood score, and then I can calculate. And this will bring me the minimum, the maximum, and mean. I could also do some data constructing if I wanted to, or cleaning, like deleting a field if I needed to. Let's take a look now at analyzing the hydrology of Westport to understand the flood risk just a little better. The 3.0 update also brings 3 brand new tools added to the hydrology toolset. We have Derive Stream as Line, Derive Stream as Raster, and Derive Continuous Flow. We'll use Derive Stream as Line here by starting off with a high-quality 1-meter DEM provided by LINS for the West Coast just this year. This tool allows us to simply add a DEM without any pre-processing or any hydro-conditioning, literally streamlining the process of making your own streams. I can adjust the accumulation threshold if I want to, but with no further steps, I can simply run the tool. And then once it's added to the map, I can zoom into a section of this river and we can see how accurate this tool can be at finding streams. With these greatly improved streams, I can actually create things like a relative elevation model, which emphasizes the stream as the base elevation and visualizes significant hydrological patterns. Moving to another one of our maps where we might start getting ready to publish or share our work with stakeholders, we can now check our visualizations to ensure we maximize accessibility. By using the brand new Color Vision Simulator up in the View tab, we can now check to see our flood prediction map using flood zones provided by CoreLogic may appear to a portion of the population with one of 3 vision deficiencies like blue blind vision. To ensure any of our future consistent workflows are as easy as possible, there are a few catalog enhancements as well. In our catalog view, we can now find any of our items in our file geodatabases by sorting through the date modified or by the size of the file. Returning to the catalog pane, we can also explore our set of nested folder connections. This one has a pretty meaningless name, but if we just edit the alias instead of the actual file name, we can clarify their names without breaking any paths. Once we're ready to finalize our outputs in ArcGIS Pro, we can now go to the new enhancement to creating reports in the 3.0 update. In this report, we've included a summary of the flood scores in each town that can be used to create standardized and repeatable reports of different regions. And now we can insert a map frame to aid in our visualization. With that final step, we've completed a workflow just using a few of the new capabilities that ArcGIS Pro can provide. For those who've been intrigued by what you've seen here today with the Pro possibilities, but you may be still using ArcMap Desktop instead, we strongly suggest that you visit an Eagle stand in the exhibit or contact any of our staff here at conference. While we've seen that ArcGIS Pro is an essential tool for a hydrologist, it's not the only industry that it could benefit. Next, I'll pass it over to Josh to show you a rather relevant example of what's new in ArcGIS Pro for the world of BIM integrations.
Thanks, Jess. As we heard earlier from Andreas, there is great opportunity to have BIM data and GIS work together. GIS provides comprehensive environmental context in the form of data layers to the highly detailed BIM models. A foundational step in almost all workflows involving BIM and GIS is importing BIM data into Pro, which has been enhanced over the last couple of versions. One file type we can use is Revit, a popular design format from Autodesk with detailed building information. Here I have a Revit file which can be read directly into Pro and will contain a building and floor plan layer. We also have an IFC file, which is a universal file format for sharing BIM data across different software and can also be read directly into Pro. One use case for BIM is to provide data for use within ArcGIS Indoors, which is Esri's indoor mapping, space planning, and wayfinding software. I have 2 enhanced geoprocessing tools that allow me to quickly and easily bring my BIM data into the correct Indoors streamlined schema with these new feature layers and then visualize it on the map. The data in these models is complex, therefore you could run into errors with the importing of the indoor schema. The new validation attribute rules and error inspector are a great way to visualize and address them. Indoors is just one use case for BIM data within ArcGIS. Thanks to Otakara Limited, Woods Bagot, and Christchurch City Council, we're able to show these amazing IFC and Revit models of this brand new Te Pae Convention Centre. Here we can see the plenary auditoriums, where we are located currently. BIM models are a rich source of architectural data, so when we're visualizing them, it's important we only display elements we're interested in. We can filter layers by category and use the slice tool to easily visualize the building's interior. As these models are within the ArcGIS system, you can easily upload either IFC or Revit files as building scene layers and add them to the scene viewer among other GIS layers and online for everyone to see in a standard web browser. We'd love to see what you can do with these tools in your own BIM data. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks to Jess and to Josh F. What a fantastic model, and I really want to follow on from Josh's point about acknowledging the architects and building owners who shared those design files with us. Not only have they delivered a beautiful physical asset, they've delivered an amazing digital asset to match it. And you can think of all the scenarios where having that to manage this building going forward would be a great thing to have. Mobile apps are a key component of the ArcGIS system, one which has seen rapid adoption by organizations and teams large and small over the last few years. Many of you are using these apps already, in fact, whether that be viewing or capturing data using field maps, coordinating your field teams using Workforce, or perhaps using one of our specialist data capture applications such as Survey123 or Quick Capture. To show us what's new in this exciting area of mobile apps, I'd like to pass over to Julian and to Mia.
Kia ora, Scott, and kia ora koutou. ArcGIS mobile apps allow you to take your GIS with you wherever you go, allowing you to view, edit, and capture data, both online, offline, outdoors, and indoors. Let's kick off with ArcGIS Field Maps, our map-centric data collection app. Many of you will be familiar with Explorer, Tracker, and Collector, and Field Maps combines the capabilities into one seamless application. Like all the Esri mobile apps, Field Maps can be configured to meet your business needs, whether you're out on a farm, mapping riparian zones, tracing utility networks, or perhaps exploring a building level by level. But today, I'd like to take you on a virtual field trip with me as I venture around Wellington, playing the role of an asset maintenance officer. And a big shout out to the team at Wellington City Council for allowing me to showcase their mahi on the big screen, and for telling me where I can find the coolest slide in Wellington at Roseneath Park. The Roseneath Park Squiggly Slide is an impressive feat of human engineering. It was installed back in 2020, sits at 15 metres long, and is made of a sturdy yet slippery stainless steel construction. And apps like Field Maps allow me to capture the location of this asset and relevant attribute information. So out in the field, I'll capture the slide as a point, I'll add a brief description, and I'll specify the material. And using the new contingent value support, I have a recommended list of materials based on my specified asset type. So let me choose stainless steel, I'll enter a quantity, and using the new arcade calculations, many of the fields have been filled in for me, notably the asset number and the name of the park the slide is located within. That's coming from the underlying parks layer in my map. The Wellington City Council asset team are largely interested in capturing assets which fall within council-owned parks and reserves. An exciting new geofencing feature allows them to be notified when they're entering and exiting these areas. And I imagine this is a feature that many of you would find value in, whether you're, say, avoiding hazardous areas such as electrified assets or steep terrain, or perhaps wanting to be notified of a nearby pest trap or asset to inspect. Additionally, we can enable location tracking to be turned on when we're within our geofence, keeping track of where we've been, or perhaps where we haven't been as well. As GIS professionals, maps play a significant role in our lives. However, for workflows where you need to capture detailed attribute information in a logical order, a map-centric approach may not be the most efficient method. And so that's where Survey123 comes in, our form-centric data collection app. Survey123 is known for its library of rich form elements, and we've often seen it be used to replace paper-based workflows in the office or in the field. However, where Esri's development focus has been of late is enhancing the process for capturing more complex geometries and image markup. And so back at Roseneath Park, I can use Survey123 to report equipment which requires maintenance, like this protective matting which has seen better days. Using the new streaming tools, I can walk around the feature and the asset will be captured based on my GPS location. And here I'm using a 1 meter streaming interval. And yes, I do walk this fast. It's Wellington walking for you. And as you can see, the area and perimeter have been auto-calculated for me. Using the new annotation feature, I can then upload or take a photo of the map. And I can then use a custom drawing tool palette to annotate my image. So these can be configured to meet your needs in terms of the symbology and text. And so as a result, photos taken with a survey can now be more easily interpreted. So now as I finish up my survey, I can submit my data immediately, seeing as I'm working in an online environment. Or if I were capturing this data offline, I could save my work to the outbox and submit the surveys when I get back to base. Now, you've seen field maps for map-centric data capture and Survey123 for form-based workflows. However, sometimes you need to capture data rapidly and at speed. And Quick Capture's big button interface allows you to do just so. Whether you're needing to conduct a rapid damage assessment, or perhaps mapping invasive species, or even incident reporting. And so to share with you what's new in Quick Capture, I'd love to pass over to our GIS intern, Mia.
Thanks, Julian. With all the heavy rainfall we've been having recently, natural hazards have been becoming increasingly more frequent. Here's a form I configured to capture hazards such as landslides, flooding, and tree falls. Each button is color-coded and symbolized based on their risk and size. With the click of a button or even a vocal cue, I can capture a GIS feature and take a photo. Without any additional input, Quick Capture has recorded a point with my location, username, date and time, and new device variables such as battery percentage. I can also update the location of the points when observing a landslide from a safe distance. Quick Capture makes data capture simple. However, sometimes you need to quickly capture contextual information, and button user inputs allow you to do just so. With the latest update, you can now configure up to 3 user inputs that can either be before or after you capture your geometry. Here, I'm going to specify the approximate volume of the landslide and whether or not any assets have been damaged. Quick Capture may commonly be used to rapidly capture points of interest, but you can also capture line and polygon features. Now, with the new map sketching feature, you can quickly draw features on the map rather than use your device's location. So, in this scenario, I'm going to digitize this large landslide. And when I've completed it, I'll hit done. As you've seen, it's extremely simple to capture data on the go, and I encourage you to configure your own buttons suited to your rapid data collection needs.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia. So we've captured data in the field using a number of applications. And one theme you may have noticed with the ArcGIS mobile apps of late is that their capabilities are becoming further intertwined, and what differs between them is the user experience, whether that be map-centric, form-centric, or rapid. But where's all this data going? Well, it's being stored in our central source of truth, whether that be ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. And we can visualize, monitor, and explore this information using one of the many web applications available in the ArcGIS system, and many of them you've seen already today, including my personal favorite, ArcGIS Dashboards. ArcGIS Dashboards allow you to visualize trends, monitor status, and easily communicate your data to decision makers. And some exciting new features have been added in recent updates, including a refreshed UI and author experience, a new and improved table element, and the ability to download data as a CSV for data-driven elements. And best of all, dashboards are interactive, configurable, and embeddable, meaning you can tailor them to meet your needs and use them alongside your existing business systems. Well, there you have it, some of the latest features to the ArcGIS mobile apps, and more. So if you'd like to find out even more and to hear about how organizations such as your own are using mobile applications and taking GIS with them into the field, I encourage you to come and join us for tomorrow's ArcGIS mobile app session. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Julian and Mia for that awesome demonstration. Like its SaaS counterpart, ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise is a foundational software system for GIS, as you heard mentioned in the previous example. Whether it's powering or mapping and visualization, doing analytics, or data management. It's the basis for running the Esri suite of applications and your own custom applications. ArcGIS Enterprise is tightly integrated with ArcGIS Pro for mapping and authoring and seamlessly connects with ArcGIS Online to share content between those two aspects of the system. While many aspects of enterprise and online are functionally equivalent, there are a number of differences, such as the level of control you have with enterprise, the installed software and data location, and a number of functional differences as well, such as support for cloud data warehouses and capabilities like the new Deep Learning Studio available in ArcGIS Enterprise version 11, which was released in July. Another new capability for ArcGIS Enterprise is the option to deploy on the cloud-native infrastructure of Kubernetes. This allows you to support highly scalable, highly available ArcGIS Enterprise implementations. We'll hear tomorrow from Waka Kotahi, NZTA, who are already on this path, about the why and the what of this work, for this work from their own perspective. Well, today and throughout this week, we'll see showcased the amazing range of applications that the ArcGIS system has. And more importantly, we'll see the incredible ways in which you all configure these and customize these applications and tools to solve real-world issues. As GIS professionals, we're experts at using spatial capabilities in our everyday workflows. But as we all know, not everyone has this expertise. And this is where developers can come in. Speaking of developers, I'd like to welcome to the stage two of our own Local Maps dev team to tell us more about the latest developments in the areas of the ArcGIS platform and the wider development topic. Josh and Edward.
Thanks, Scott. Well, as developers, we are experts in choosing the best technologies to build targeted solutions to problems. And through ArcGIS Platform, we have access to the same range of services and tools that are the building blocks of the various GIS applications we've seen today. ArcGIS Platform is all about giving us the flexibility to solve problems in the most effective way possible. It helps us in three key ways. Firstly, through location services. These are the services that are core to all GIS applications, but that might also be useful outside of a GIS-specific context. It's services providing things like expertly styled base maps, as well as the ability to customize these to exactly meet your needs. Data hosting, host your data online in our global, highly available infrastructure, and then cache it offline, edit, analyze, and view it in your custom applications. Access to premium data, both New Zealand specific and global. Search, geocoding, and routing, and powerful and sophisticated abilities like spatial analysis, image analysis, real-time mapping, and IoT integration. Well, as part of providing these services, we've modified our architecture and created tools so that you can use these services with web mapping libraries such as Leaflet, OpenLayers, and MapLibrary Dual.js. That's the community-supported branch of the Mapbox SDK. So, for many of you, using Platform will be as simple as just updating a URL in your existing application. Second, if you need more functionality than these libraries provide, we've made our own SDKs available and we've refreshed our developer documentation to help you use them. We've got web libraries such as the ArcGIS API for JavaScript for mapping, or the ArcGIS REST.js library for talking to services. We've got the Cowsite Design Library for crafting beautiful web interfaces. We've got 5 different runtime SDKs for creating mobile and desktop applications. We've got the Maps SDKs for the Unity and Unreal game engines. And of course, we've got tools for extending and automating your pro and enterprise workflows. Even if you're not a developer, I'd encourage you to check out developers.arcgis.com. The tutorials there are a great way if you want to get started or to dabble in web or mobile app development. And third, Platform provides an additional consumption-based business model which leverages the industry-standard API key access method. This means you have the option of being billed based on the number of tiles or the number of routes your users request. You can get started now by taking advantage of our generous free tiers. But then, for those of us who aren't developers, the true power of ArcGIS Platform is in enabling us to work with our non-GIS dev teams. The new documentation provides a great introduction which enables our devs to become familiar with the GIS concepts that we are already familiar with. And through the new tools, they'll be able to integrate our data and our services into their applications using the tools that they know and love. Well, to give you a taste of what's possible with Platform, I'd like to hand over to Edward to demonstrate some of the awesome new 3D capabilities of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript.
Cool. Thanks, Josh. ArcGIS API for JavaScript provides the abilities for you to build a data-driven and compelling web applications. With the latest release of JavaScript API, the new editor widgets help you to editing in 3D and optimized fast performance client-side analysis. Now, let me show you how you can bring your data from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. This viewer shows how to modify an integrated mesh layer by clipping, masking, and replacing a specific region of mesh. All these modifications are applied on client side in the browsers and do not modify the underlying data. Once we have flattened the areas, we can use the building viewer to unlock the full capabilities of a 3D BIM models. This application presents the TIPI building in 3D with the use of ArcGIS API 4 for JavaScript and building scene layers. The visitor can explore the building by navigating around it from different angles to discover these amazing buildings. Let's do some more building explorations to have a broader perspective of the building surroundings. We can virtually travel to Christchurch Art Gallery, Christchurch City Councils, the Central Bus Exchange, and the Christchurch Cathedral. We can also add different sections to the buildings, such as the plenary sections, the admin centers areas. To have a deeper look into the interior of that building, we can use the scene view analysis objects. Slicing the building horizontally to only visualize the level we wanted to see. And then we can do a direct line measurement from a point to another point. Area measurements, and line of sight analysis from the stage to the audience to the stair and to the back of the plenary sessions. Building web application with JavaScript API enable you to fully unlock your data's potentials with interactive user experience and stunning 2-dimension and 3-dimension visualizations. Thank you. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks very much to Edward and to Josh for that view from the developer's perspective, as well as the view from the stage. When we talk about spatial analytics, we're really focused on advanced analytics in a number of key areas, including analysis itself, specifically analytical models and spatial algorithms, data science, which we define as identifying patterns, trends, anomalies in large data sets, and also artificial intelligence, which includes many aspects of machine learning and deep learning to solve highly complex or computationally intense problems, making really computers really work for their money. To talk to us more about some brand new products in this exciting area, I want to pass back to Edward again, right now. Edward.
Thanks, Scott. Now, I'm here to talk to you about advanced spatial analytics in ArcGIS. And specifically, I will be introducing you to advanced big data analysis using the new ArcGIS GeoAnalytic engine and Deep Learning Studio. All types of biodiversity information data get uploaded from all around the world every day. This data set may contain billions and billions of records. The data will be so large, it is impossible to open with a spreadsheet applications. And we are talking really big data. Well, what we can do to handle this volume of data is to leverage the power of distributed processing with Spark in a big data environments. GeoAnalytic engine is a Spark native and standalone engine. It is intended for processing massive volumes of data, The geoanalytic tools are ready to be used in your Spark environments. And once you run the analysis, you can store it either where it came from, or data warehouse, or anywhere else of your choice through the ArcGIS Python API. It is supported on all the popular clouds out there, and it runs within their native Spark managed environments, like you see listed here. For example, Azure Synapse for Azure, and AWS has EMR, and for Google Clouds, it is Dataproc. You can also use Databricks that is available across the platform. Now, let's look at how you can bring the geoanalytic tool to your Spark environments. Here is our Spark cluster in the cloud. In this case, we are using Microsoft Azure Databricks. By allocating multiple nodes in the cluster, we can execute big data query quickly. We have 32 workers over here. And we have, which gives us approximately 1,800 gigabytes of memory. To get started, let's hit run to read more than 200 files from a data store. We see that we have about 10 million of occurrences, but to discover where the dataset got published, we need to do spatial analysis. At one or another point, all of us have experienced this. The data are not ready for you to do analysis. We can convert the Spark data frames into Pandas data frame to remove the empty null values within the string. Now we have two new columns which are ready to be used for doing spatial analysis. And that's where the ArcGIS GeoAnalytic engines comes in. Simply dragging in a jar file will give user access to more than 100 well-documented spatial functions native to Spark SQLs and various of analytic tools that are also accessible through PySpark. The Python distributions view formats are also supported. These functions are installing as we speak. And once this is done, they can also be imported very easily, like so. Now that we have brought spatial functions to the data, we can begin our analysis. Let's visualize the data by finding the hotspot of these points within a 40 kilometers neighborhood to show the biodiversity data capturing coverage in New Zealand. In just a few seconds, we are able to process all 10 million records worth of data into just over 5,000 hex bins. We can pull in the world contingents from a feature service and then limit the extent and create this map with the result we have. To better understand what might be contributing to this hex bin, we can also easily share our result to ArcGIS Online and take a closer look at this point in a web map. The ArcGIS GeoAnalytic engine fully leverages the Spark cluster, helping us to convert this data point into hex bin or any other forms. It brings the power of spatial analysis to your existing big data infrastructures, helping analysts make sense of it quickly and easily. We have covered the analytics and data science part. Let me show you the other aspect of advanced analytics with artificial intelligence. Deep Learning Studio is a simple and easy to use lightweight web apps that provide the deep learning end-to-end workflow. The application runs on enterprise alongside your image server. And let me show you how you can configure your project and start training your own models. First, we need to create a project. I will name it Detect Trees. You can choose the project type between object classification, pixel classifications, and object detections. There are 2 steps to creating the models: preparing your training data and training the models. Then we can make use of it to run inferencing. To prepare training data, I select imagery layers, Wellington region in this case. Then I define the label that I wanted to collect, trees. I can then invite collaborators to help me labeling the data. Then I define the work areas for my collaborators to work in. Now your projects are configured and ready for you to start sample labeling. We can now choose to start collect training samples or import and edit your existing training samples. That's a cool visualization. You can also manage all the image chips for your projects. And once complete, the project managers can review the training sample through a dashboard. And that's just a shallow dive into advanced analysis. I hope it shows you how GeoAnalytic Engine and Deep Learning Studio can help solving high complex or computationally intense problems. If you are a data scientist or a machine learning engineer or an analyst or even a data engineer, there's something in it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. So if you're none of those things, and some of that technology on the stage impressed you, but you perhaps didn't understand the details of it, I would like to summarize perhaps that the takeaways are, what Edward showed there was using massive amounts of data, so large that we can't take them into the GIS. We take the GIS to the data. That opens up a whole range of opportunities. And in the second part, with the Deep Learning Studio, it's an extension to ArcGIS Enterprise, where we're using the deep learning algorithms in a really easy to use interface, it's not a simple area, to extract valuable information from huge amounts of data. So these are available now for you to use. If you want to learn more about them, then please do go along to the spatial analytics sessions on Thursday, where there'll be some more details and some other examples of how these are being used. This is a big step forward in terms of using your GIS technology to look at massive amounts of data and extract information from it. And thanks again to Edward for some live on-stage coding. For those of you with perhaps a less technical skill set, ArcGIS Insights provides an intuitive analysis application that fuses location analytics with open data science and business intelligence workflows. Answers questions that you didn't know to ask, analyzes data completely, and unlocks new insights, as the name would suggest. With Insights, you're able to empower analysts at all skill levels to directly connect data, perform analytics, and take the results back into the wider ArcGIS system or into third-party systems. To show us some of the latest enhancements to ArcGIS Insights, I want to pass over to Eagle's Ed Cook.
Thanks, Scott. Bring the spreadsheet back with this one. ArcGIS Insights allows all members of your organisation to use both the power of geography and relationships to explore and analyse your data. To start with, let's use an existing workbook to see how we've all travelled to get here this week. Insights workbooks are the documents that store all of your pages and cards. This is where you can view tables, maps, and perform analysis, and also show it against charts. This page shows an analysis using an anonymised data set of all of us as attendees and how far we've travelled to get here today. Every chart and table in Insights are both interactive and interchangeable. For example, I can quickly filter and cross-filter cards and change the type of visualisation method I'm using. It's truly incredible to visually see how far many of you have come for this year's 3-day event. And from this, I'm curious in our travel pattern for the other 362 days that we're not at conference. In Insights, we're going to create a new page within this workbook to analyse commuter travel patterns. Our first step is to add data. For this analysis, I'm using 2 data sets from Statistics New Zealand. The first one of these is a geographic lookup table. And the second of these is the star of the show, the 2018 Census Main Means of Travel to Work by Statistical Area 2. This dataset contains aggregated journey information based on an individual's home SA2 and workplace SA2. It also then summarises it based on the different modes of travel that are used to get to that destination. As you can see, this dataset has been imported as a spreadsheet. However, it contains location information in the form of coordinate values. Using Insights, I can use the Enable Location capability to turn these longitude and latitude values into a point dataset. So first of all, I'm going to convert my usual residence coordinate values into that spatial field. And then once again, just for those who maybe didn't catch on to that, Old Faithful NZTM is supported within Insights. So I can use that even if I have data that isn't of a world projection. Later on, I know I'm going to need the ability to report on other geographies also. And using the inbuilt relationships capability within Insights, I can take two data sets and perform a join, allowing me to use all of those other geographies, such as regional councils and territorial local authorities, and stamp them to my data set. To join this, I'm going to use the common field of Statistical Area 2 name. This then creates a new data set, that joined output. And from here, I can then filter it to focus on my area of interest, which hopefully you've caught onto the theme today, that's Christchurch here in New Zealand. So I can filter that data set and make it analysis ready. From here, I can now start creating those cards that you saw just before. So the first one I'm going to start with is a very high-tech table. We're then going to go 0 to 100 relatively quickly, and I'm going to use two fields and add them onto my page, this time using a link chart. This shows the interrelationships between where people are living and also where their workplaces are. But this is a GIS conference, so I better show a map at some point. So I'm going to add those on and have the backdrop of geography to that same visualisation method, showing the linkages based on location across Christchurch for those who are commuting to work every day. So as expected, the data shows even on a city scale the complexity of daily commutes and the different methods that people use to travel to work each day. However, using a mix of geography and some more basic statistics, we can take this even further. You see, all of these commutes have a common factor. Every kilometre travelled emits small amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And for each of us, 25% of our total carbon emissions can come from travel alone. For this next step of modelling and computing carbon emissions, I'm going to use ArcGIS Insights Desktop to utilise an exciting new capability, the Data Engineering Workbook. So once again, I'm opening a workbook page, though this time it's dedicated to a data-only view. As you can see, I've already enriched my data set using that relationship join that I showed just earlier, so I can report and summarise on regions and not have to redo that step every time. The Data Engineering Workbook also supports calculations to a new field. This allows me to further enrich my data set without having to leave the app. In this new field, I'm going to compute a total value of carbon emissions based on each of the journeys within that data set. And for that, doing even faster typing than my previous demo, I'm able to calculate a multiple of variables. This formula uses the distance in kilometres between each SA2 and multiplies them by the grams of carbon emitted per kilometre by each of those transport methods. Finally, I multiply this again by the number of the population who undertake each type of journey. So this total CO2 value measurement I can use along with my join within either Insights Desktop or export that up to use within Insights Online or Enterprise. So how do I examine and interpret this complex information? Well, to start, I can add this new variable in to my existing visualizations. Here I can select those same two factors, our home destination and our workplace destination, and I can use that total CO2 value and add it alongside my existing link map. And here you can see something a little bit different appearing on our page. This time the linkages are represented showing arbitrary carbon trails of each suburb's contribution to the overall CO2 emissions. To make more sense of this, I can accompany it with a chart. So in this case, I'm going to select my SA2 home name, and then that value that we just calculated, and add that in using a column chart. From here, this allows me to then sort my graph based on the areas of the highest contributors, perhaps in emissions from commuting in Christchurch. And using the inbuilt cross filters, I can click on one of those locations and try and understand perhaps that spatial pattern of why this is so. The thicker the line, the higher the carbon output. So at this point, after briefly examining these results, I've decided that I'm at a point that I want to get further peer review. Before I do this, I can do other things to the data set to make it a little bit more presentable when I'm passing it on to other analysts. For example, I can use my existing visualization methods here, but then I can join them to, say, Living Atlas datasets, statistical area 2 boundaries, and create chloropleth maps. Here you can see the darker the colour, the higher the overall contribution to the total carbon emissions from commuting within Christchurch. On the right-hand side is something a little bit more easier to understand. What is the total contribution to that carbon rate by each mode of transport? And unsurprisingly, you can see that driving a private vehicle to work is undoubtedly the largest contributor. So using the sharing capabilities of the ArcGIS platform, I can share these results to anyone, including the visualization that you can see here, but also the methodology that Insights automatically creates behind the scenes as I'm adding these cards to my page. So as you've seen, ArcGIS Insights is designed to be used alongside all of your rich spatial and non-spatial data, helping your organisations answer questions and make new discoveries. The goal is to enable increased collaboration and informed decisions. Insights is just another tool for addressing challenges that we're facing on that global level, and as you've seen from the emission we produce just from our humble commuting method, the local level. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Scott. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Ed. Well, Insights that you saw there has new features. The last technology I want to talk about today is a brand new application. ArcGIS Knowledge is enterprise knowledge graph software that enables users to explore and analyze spatial, non-spatial, unstructured and structured data together to accelerate decision making. Developed to seamlessly connect analysts to the data sources they need with analytical tools they trust, ArcGIS Knowledge integrates graph and spatial analytics together to support data discovery, collaborative investigations, link analysis, and information sharing across ArcGIS Enterprise. ArcGIS Knowledge is an effective and flexible way to add enterprise knowledge graph analytics to your existing ArcGIS investment. Thank you very much to Aaron, and thank you to his team for the awesome work they're doing in bringing together those key data sets. As Aaron said, there's more information on the data sets in a couple of sessions later on this week, including the emergency management session and also the content session, both on Thursday. That brings us to the end of our presentations, but before we close, a little bit early, I have to say, I don't think we've ever done an early finish on plenary in this conference in 20 years, so it's a bit of a shock. But before we close, I want to speak a little bit about this event itself. This event wouldn't be possible without the support of yourselves, of course, but also without the support of our sponsor and exhibitor community. These organisations complement the technology from Esri in many ways, and are represented in the expo area. I'd strongly recommend you check them out from lunchtime today, which will start when I stop talking. If you visit each stand, apparently you get a stamp. We've done the gamification of the expo. So we have gone for a non-digital mechanism, I think, though. So if you visit each of these stands, you get a stamp or a sticker. And then if you collect all of these, we enter you into a prize for a mystery prize. It's a mystery because I don't know what it is. The Community Hub is part of the expo, and the Community Hub is actually a really interesting space because it's a great place to meet with many of the organisation societies out there doing work with GIS or for GIS, such as lifelong learning, conservation, and the user group themselves. So I do recommend that you check the expo out to visit those organisations and spend some time with them. And finally, some housekeeping notices just about the conference itself as well. We are very glad, as we said, to see you all face to face, but we want to minimise the chances of you getting sick, and so we do encourage mask wearing while moving about, especially in the foyers and in the expo spaces. So people are so excited to get back together that day 3 of the conference and the dinner have both sold out. So if you have booked and have a golden ticket to get to both of these parts and can no longer make it, please let the registration desk know, and you will have a very happy person in a wait list who can take that from you. So if you cannot make it to the dinner or day 3, please let us know because they've sold out and we can pass it on to someone else who can make it. Also on the Thursday, partly to do with the number of people we have attending, we've done some room changes so that the paper version of the agenda you have when you registered has some incorrect information around the rooms, and we now have the 3D on the web, and emergency management sessions have been moved across to the Turanga Library, which we also have a 3D BIM model for, so that's okay. That's just over the road in this corner here, and we'll have some staff to guide you across there. In terms of the conference itself, for the streams for the next 2.5 days, I would recommend that you check out some of the new streams. We've done a bit of a departure from some of the more traditional just user story and technology streams, as good as they are, and we've included some additional streams which we think reflect the community and what we're interested in these days. One of those is the Growing GIS People, talking about how to grow your own GIS technology people, how to retain them and attract them in the first place. We've got a stream about Indigenous GIS, and we've also got a 2-part Smart Cities session on day 3 in the afternoon, which we're running in conjunction with Environment Canterbury and with Christchurch City Council. So thank you to both those organisations for helping us run that. The expo, as I said, is open after this session. It's on the far side of the Tapai building. You hopefully memorised the 3D BIM model we showed you earlier on. If not, we've got a number of Eagle staff in black shirts to guide you from this part of the building across to the expo. You do have to go past a financial planning conference to get there. If they try and accost you, don't make eye contact and just keep walking. As part of the expo, we also have a new Eagle stand. We'd recommend you check that out as well. We've moved away from purely a technology-based stand to a stand that represents the different aspects of Eagle Technology as a company and the ways we can support you. Managed services, advisors, the products, the support, the training, etc. So please do go there and chat to some friendly faces to learn about how we can support you further. And another addition to the expo is a demo theatre. At the far side of the expo area, there's a dedicated space where we've got a number of short 15-minute demonstrations on focused topics, which I think you'll find exciting. Please do check out the online agenda for that on the website and pop along and check them out. There's some fantastic demonstrations in there. I think the last thing I've been asked to tell you about is about hashtags. For those social media enthusiasts among you who are tweeting or TikToking or whatever it is you do, the official hashtag for this conference, if you want to be part of the cool crowd, is NZEUC. So if you're going to put look at that, how's that for timing? Look at that. So if you're going to put your photographs or stories out there, prefix with this and you can be part of that cool group. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's plenary. We are back in this room tomorrow for day 2 plenary, where you'll actually hear some of the business stories behind the technology you saw today, NZTA, Fonterra. It's more about the why than the what, and we do encourage you to come along and join us for that. Before we go, please join me in giving all of our presenters and guests a great big thank you. So we'll now break for lunch. It's in the expo room, so not only are there stands, but there's also sandwiches there, followed by stream sessions from 2 p.m. in the commu rooms, which are back across here. Please follow the Eagle staff to guide you to the expo. Thank you very much and have a great NZEUC. Thank you.